What's good? What's poppin'? We here, man. I'm back with another video, man. Hey, I'm back with another crazy video, man. I'm back with another crazy reaction for sure. Cause the title of the video we're reacting to today is called MK Ultra, the most disturbing experiment in history. Now we all have heard about the rumors of MK Ultra. Some people call it conspiracy theorists. I definitely believe in MK Ultra. I've been hearing about it since I was a kid, about how they put a lot of these celebrities under it, change they mental capacity and how they think, and clone people and all this other stuff, manipulate people through all this technology. We seen it through Get Out, bro. You know what I mean? They showed it in plenty of movies. I definitely believe it's real technology. I don't think it's a conspiracy theory at all. I think it's real. But I'm happy they put an actual video out on it, because I never actually did my research on it specifically. But I mean, here we are, man. The world works in mysterious ways, bro, and we're here. Other than that, I ain't got much to say. Let's just get into it. That was a crazy song to start. It's a scary movie or something?
Dr. Sidney Gottlieb is the Central Intelligence Agency's chief chemist. He's also directing a project of vital importance to national security. In government labs, universities, prisons, brothels, and so-called black sites across the world, the CIA is testing the effects of various conditions on the human mind. Their goal is to find the most effective methods of mind control and its potential as a tool for espionage and warfare. But the human mind is not so easily controlled. First, it must be broken. For over a decade, the CIA used thousands of men, women, and children as involuntary test subjects in their search for mind control.
At GEHA,
So when they be having all of these
benefits for federal
when they be having all these traffickers and stuff like that, and human traffickers, they be trying to kidnap people, throw them in the back of vans, and you be wondering where they taking all these people, bro. You don't know if they doing experiments. You don't know if they using them for all type of sick and twisted things. You know what I'm saying? But like they said in the video, they break people first. So even the people who out on Front Street that you be seeing out here, you don't really know what they really been through to make them like that. You feel me? Some of these people not even really in their right mind. Some of these people really did get broken in all type of sick and twisted ways. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's crazy, bro.
And retirees.
And
We're heading into some really difficult times.
Bro, shut up. I'm trying to watch the video, bro. Shut up.
Prolonged exposure to psychoactive drugs, sleep and sensory deprivation,
Bro.
hypnosis, and psychological punishment are just some of the experiments they tried.
Torture, bro.
Much of the evidence of MKUltra was destroyed, but not all. For decades, people have been piecing the story back together. In the process, they found hundreds of disturbing experiments.
And not to keep pausing, but y'all mean to tell me y'all don't think they putting these celebrities under MK Ultra, bro? You got to think they giving these people in power, these celebrities, these people of influence, all the money in the world up front, bro. They're changing their lives, bringing them from the most impoverished situations. Some of these people didn't even have parents, bro. Like, didn't have nothing. They giving you millions of dollars when you come from zero. You had no money to even invest in yourself. They giving you fame on top of that. Everybody loves you. They literally changed your life overnight. And you think that the moment you decide to stop listening, or the moment that you don't want to do what they want you to do, you don't think they'll put you under MK Ultra? You don't think that that's possible? For all my conspiracy people who believe everything is a conspiracy and don't believe anything but the news, bro, you don't think that that's possible? All this influence that you got because of them, and now you're trying to get people to see the truth that could hurt their pockets. You don't think they will put the person that they gave all this influence to, MK Ultra, to keep pushing their agendas? Me personally, I think they would, but everybody don't think like that, though, you know?
Cover-up of a CIA agent's murder and the origins of an LSD-fueled counterculture revolution. But still, questions remain. Who was behind MK Ultra? Why was the CIA interested in mind control? And perhaps most importantly, what did they find?
This is the Rockefeller Report, released tonight, 299 pages. It says many things: that the CIA did engage in unlawful activities, that it did go beyond its mandate, that it did succumb to political pressures from the White House. It confirms there was domestic spying on American civilians, unlawful wiretaps, the opening of private mail, even a drug testing program involving the use of LSD against unsuspecting persons.
Damn. Them drugs, boy. Them drugs that do it.
In 1942, the United States created the Office of Strategic Services. It was the country's first foreign intelligence agency, responsible for conducting espionage missions in World War II. But in 1945, after defeating the Axis powers, President Harry Truman dissolved it. He reasoned that the US didn't need a foreign intelligence service, especially during peacetime. But the war had never ended. Only the enemy had changed. 2 years later, the Soviet Union was spreading communism across Europe and building nuclear weapons. The Cold War was in full swing. So in 1947, President Truman signed the National Security Act. It created the Central Intelligence Agency under a vague definition. Its purpose was to carry out functions and duties related to intelligence affecting national security by using, quote, all appropriate methods. The CIA began spying on suspected communists, interfering in European elections, and gathering intelligence on the Soviets' growing military. For an intelligence agency, this was nothing out of the ordinary. But this didn't last long. In 1949, the Catholic Church's cardinal in Hungary, a Soviet republic, was accused of attempting to start a third world war, re-establish the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and crown himself emperor. These were outrageous crimes, which he was clearly not guilty of.
And it'd be so crazy that war really be the start or the root of a lot of stuff, bro. Like when it come down to like MK Ultra, or if it just come down to just like crazy things that's carried out against people in today's time, it usually stems from some type of war, some type of chaos between two nations, or like it's always something about a war, bro. You know what I mean? Like when you start hearing about certain technologies that they like crazy stuff like this, bro. Whenever you go back into the history of it, it always got something to do with war, bro. War is always mentioned. You know what I mean? War is crazy.
But during his trial, the cardinal looked almost asleep, and he openly confessed to everything in a robotic tone. When the CIA saw this, they reached an alarming conclusion. Somehow, the Soviets had found a way to force people to willingly say things they did not believe.
MK Ultra.
To control their minds.
Damn.
Mind control used to be the stuff of science fiction. But if it was real, the United States was facing an existential threat. With mind control, the Soviets could force captured agents to reveal secrets, turn against the US, and even brainwash American citizens and turn them into communists.
Bro.
The first country to use mind control at scale would rule the world. In 1950, an ex-OSS agent called Alan Dulles joined the CIA. Dulles believed they had to learn the secrets of mind control themselves, so he started the CIA's first mind control program, codenamed Bluebird. In a network of secret prisons, or black sites, in West Germany and Japan, the CIA began using captured Soviet prisoners as test subjects for their new so-called
Fleet runs everything, but balancing maintenance, costs, and reporting shouldn't slow you down.
special.
That's another scary thing about being like a political prisoner, or just like being in prison for certain things that got to do with the government. You know what I mean? Like you don't know what your fate is. You don't know what you about to go through. Like a lot of these people that get locked up for like serious matters or like deep issues that we don't know everything about, like they be going through all type of torture and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Whether you saying the wrong thing, you hold certain information they need, you don't know what they go through, bro. And brainwashing is probably just a small portion of what they go through. They probably go through all type of stuff, all type of abuse. You know what I'm saying? That's sad, though.
Special interrogation methods. They worked directly with former Nazi scientists and the infamous director of Japan's Unit 731. Those are stories for another day.
Man.
But for now, Bluebird's results were underwhelming. It seemed no amount of special interrogation was enough to reprogram another person's mind. Dulles knew he had to expand Bluebird, but he needed a rare kind of man to help him do it. Someone with the brains, the vision, and the stomach to direct history's most ambitious and perhaps most perverse scientific endeavor. And he only knew one man who fit the mold. Sidney Gottlieb was born with deformed feet. He was only able to walk after 3 major surgeries, although with a noticeable limp. Despite his disability, Gottlieb was the best student wherever he went. He studied math and physics in New York's City College.
It'd be so crazy, bro. No matter, hold on, I'm gonna go back real quick. One of the smartest people on Earth has to be one of the smartest people on Earth, right? If he's a mad scientist elected by the CIA to carry out brainwashing, I think he has to be one of the smartest people on Earth. Of course, he has deformed feet and he walks with a limp. Just makes him 30 times more scarier, like a scary movie. It's always something weird with them people, bro.
Noticeable limp. Despite his disability, Gottlieb was the best student wherever he went. He studied math and physics in New York's City College, chemistry in the University of Wisconsin, and earned a PhD in biochemistry from Caltech. After the attacks on Pearl Harbor, Gottlieb applied to join the army, but he was rejected because of his limp. He would have to serve his country in another way. During the war, Gottlieb worked for various government bodies, researching everything from soil chemistry to the metabolism of fungi. In 1951, the CIA offered him a job in its technical services staff, which developed spy gadgets. Gottlieb was made chief of the newly formed chemical division. He was a gifted and creative researcher, and his superiors noticed. Around this time, Alan Dulles decided that Project Bluebird had to expand. He gave it a new name, Artichoke, and put the technical services staff in charge, effectively making Gottlieb its leading researcher. Gottlieb thought of mind control essentially as a 2-step process. First, the mind has to be emptied, and second, it has to be filled in with something else.
Now, this is true, bro, and this is what I want to tell people, right? The same way he brainwashing people and controlling their mind, right, by emptying it and refilling it with something else, is the same way you could do with yours, bro. If you want to be successful or if you want your life to be different, you have to empty all your thoughts. I don't know exactly how to do it. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be one of those people who just act like I know. You got to do this, you got to do that. I'm not going to be one of those people, bro. I don't know. I haven't mastered it, but I do know you could change the way you think, bro. And this video is literally showing you this. Now, the way they're doing it is forceful. It's not the way, you know what I mean? But I'm saying it's a natural way you can do it too, bro. But yeah, let's get back to it.
But this process was anything but simple. Isolation, electric shocks, sleep deprivation, and other methods were too blunt. Instead of emptying a subject's mind, they destroyed it, leaving nothing left to fill in.
Damn.
Gottlieb needed a more sophisticated solution than the CIA's usual special interrogation methods. As a chemist, drugs naturally piqued his curiosity. First, Gottlieb did some experiments with marijuana, but his test subjects would burst into uncontrollable laughter. With
I mean, if you want to experiment on me with that, hey, feel free, bro. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I'll give myself a way to be experiment. Go ahead, roll me a couple. You feel me? Roll me a couple. I'll see how I feel after. I'll see how I feel after that.
They became erratic and uncontrollable.
No, I don't want none of that though. You can keep this right here. Keep it away from me. We not doing that one though. I was cool with the other one. This one, not so much.
Heroin was no better, and the effects from
absolutely not. I have to go home. I no longer want to be experimented on at all. You're getting a little bit too deep for me. Not for me at all.
A psychoactive drug called mescaline were wildly unpredictable.
Mescaline?
There was, however, one more option. A few years back, the US Army had been researching innovative new chemical weapons, one of which was a Swiss-developed hallucinogen called LSD-25. it had fascinating effects on the human
LSD.
psyche. When Gottlieb learned about these tests, he was so intrigued that he decided to try LSD himself. He found the experience enlightening and came to believe that LSD was the key to controlling the human mind. However, the CIA's intelligence suggested that the Soviets had already discovered and were able to produce LSD. If it was indeed the key to mind control, the United States was at a massive disadvantage, and they had to catch up. In response, Gottlieb started a wave of LSD experiments under Project Artichoke. Initially, his subjects were willing CIA agents, but he eventually moved on to Korean prisoners of war and mental institution patients, which the CIA called expendables.
Damn.
In the Win with Zen sweepstakes, you can get
That's
a chance
crazy,
to win
bro.
$100,000.
Certain prison
But there's
systems,
more
bro.
than one
Gottlieb
Certain prison systems you end up in, bruh, your fate could be so terrible. I ain't lying, bro. Especially these out of international countries. Some of these countries, bro, you end up in a. That's why I'm scared to go out the country and get in prison, bro. That's a big reason why I ain't too much in a rush to go to certain countries without doing my research. You know what I'm saying? Because you find yourself in a certain situation, you an American in a foreign prison, ain't nobody coming to get you, bruh. They doing experiments. You don't know who, they might come grab you. And I ain't gonna lie. One of the, probably the worst predicament to be in the world is to be tortured. And I feel like experimenting goes in that category. Like, if you experimenting on me, bro, that's torture, bro. It's like the mental aspect of it too. Like, I don't even know what's about to come from this, and neither does the person that's doing it. He's experimenting. He don't even know what's about to happen to me. Like, what? Worst case scenario, you turn into the Incredible Hulk and you able to kill the person that's experimenting on you. Best case scenario is you turn into the Hulk or something, or turn into Spider-Man. I don't know. But I ain't trying to get experimented on. I ain't gonna lie.
Gottlieb's experiments led to some interesting discoveries about LSD, but they created far more questions than answers. Project Artichoke was not nearly ambitious enough. Once again, it had to evolve. In 1953, Dwight Eisenhower became U.S. president, and he appointed the CIA current director as his chief of staff. The man who took his place was Allen Dulles. Dulles understood that mind control research was of vital importance to national security. When Gottlieb told him he needed to expand Project Artichoke, he gave him his full support.
This wild,
On
bruh.
April 13th, 1953, Dulles formally approved Project MK Ultra. It would be the most secretive and most disturbing operation in CIA history. MK Ultra would dwarf Projects Bluebird and Artichoke.
Damn.
To unlock the secrets of mind control, Gottlieb was determined to test every possible substance and method on willing and unwilling subjects, inside America and abroad.
First of all, who would be willing, bro? Like, I'm not doing it. Like, oh, let me go ahead and play with your mind and see if something cool happens. Of course. No, I'm not doing it. Like, you're just happy to do it. Like, are you insane?
On willing and unwilling subjects,
What you mean,
inside
willing?
America and abroad, no matter how cruel or violent he had to be. To keep MK Ultra a secret, most people would never even know it existed. Gottlieb organized MK Ultra into independent sub-projects, which he would delegate to others and supervise from a distance. In a few years, the number grew to 149, but only Gottlieb and one other person knew of them all. Sub-projects 1 and 2 focused on the CIA's first avenues of mind control research, developing a truth serum, and exploring the potential of drugs on behavioral modification. But for the rest of the sub-projects, Gottlieb was free to approach the problem however he saw fit. First and foremost, he was interested in LSD. In Sub-Project 3, Gottlieb wanted to understand its effects on regular people, so one of the first testing sites built specifically for MK Ultra was hidden in plain sight. The CIA would lure in drug users, petty criminals, and the homeless to a New York City apartment, give them drinks laced with LSD, and observe their behavior.
Damn.
In Subproject 4, Gottlieb hired a famous magician to teach CIA agents sleight of hand and misdirection techniques to drug others without being noticed.
That's scary, bruh. You ever been like, you know how people do they magic tricks? You be like, damn, how you do that? Bruh, it's people doing real life magic and really just taking advantage of you, bro. Like, that's why when people be saying conspiracy theories about certain things, like, bro, magic is real, bro. You know what I mean? The idea of what people think magic is probably isn't real, but magic itself, misdirection, like they said, is real. Like stuff like making you look this way the whole time is happening over there. That's a real thing. They do that on us all the time, bro. In the media, everything, bro. Like, this kind of intriguing me a little bit. I ain't gonna fake. Like, this damn near making me want to like really study psychology independently. I wouldn't even go to school for it because I don't really care to pay however much it's gonna cost me to become a psychologist, but I would do an independent study on it, buy some books. You know what I'm saying? Anybody out there who watching this right now, if you know anything about psychology and know where I can go learn about it, you know what I'm saying? Feel free to tell me, but I'm definitely interested. Like, this is very interesting. This is the type of stuff I like to watch in my own time. So me reacting to it just made like plenty of sense.
For Subproject 5, he funded an experiment at the University of Minnesota that aimed to explore the relationship between memory and hypnosis. But as Gottlieb made plans for more subprojects, he ran into a problem. At the time, only a single laboratory in Switzerland knew how to make LSD, but it had caused them so many headaches between the Soviet Union and the CIA that they decided to stop producing it. In order to secure their supply, the CIA spent $240,000 to buy their last 10 grams. The
Uncompromising
10 grams.
energy deserves uncompromising quality, crafted without compromise.
Welcome to Menlandia, where men can be dudes and dudes can be men.
Can I use natural soap instead of this?
equivalent of about 2 regular sheets of paper. It was technically the entire world's supply of LSD.
$240,000.
Gottlieb would use most of it for more experiments.
That's crazy, bro.
But he reserved a small amount for MK Ultra's Subproject 6, where the CIA secretly paid the pharmaceutical company Eli Lilly to learn how to make and mass produce LSD. It didn't take them long. Now, with a virtually unlimited supply, Gottlieb was free to investigate a question he'd always wondered about. How much LSD can someone take before their mind dissolves? Gottlieb created 3 sub-projects to answer this question. In one of them, 7 patients, most of them young men, were given double...
Young what?
7 patients, most of them young men, were...
Is he saying young black man? Why you have to bleep it out? Because I want to know. Is he just taking... What?
In one of them, 7 patients, most of them young men.
Well, if they all young black men, he need to have another experiment with all white people. Listen. Listen, man, I don't know if that's what he said or not, but I'm assuming that's what he said. It sounds like that's what he said, bro. I'm just saying, bro, don't just limit it to us, bro. You got to use some other people. They don't got to be white. They could be like Italian or something else, or Mexican. They could be something else too. And I love all people. You feel me? I love all people, but don't just be using us. Like, why just us? Let's see what else he used.
Were given double, triple, and quadruple doses of LSD every day for 77 days.
God damn.
All of this happened in the Addiction Research Center.
Bro, they say LSD feel like you on a cloud. I couldn't imagine taking that much every single day for 77 days. You like a zombie after that, I would assume. Let's see what happens.
At Lexington, Kentucky.
Damn, though, that's crazy, bro.
An Atlanta Federal Penitentiary, and even a juvenile detention center in New Jersey. Gottlieb started 4 other sub-projects. In one of the experiments, 20 prison inmates were given LSD nearly every day for 15 months.
Bruh.
Just like this, the number of sub-projects under Gottlieb's control grew in size and in cruelty. MK Ultra's global death toll was climbing steadily, and even those who survived would hardly recover from such intense psychological abuse. It was only a matter of time until someone with way too much information made the deadly mistake of trying to leave MK Ultra.
Bro, that's crazy.
Frank Olson joined the CIA's technical services staff just a few months before they began conducting MKUltra. Before this, he'd led the U.S. Army's Special Operations Division, the same branch that introduced Sidney Gottlieb to LSD. Olson was a chemist. His specialty was developing poisonous substances that would often be disguised in ingenious ways, such as a deadly lipstick or a lighter that spewed a lethal gas.
Can't trust nothing.
He'd spent 10 years in the Army's top ranks, 3 of those working closely with the CIA, and 7 months as one of the only people aware of MKUltra. Olson knew all manner of secrets, but after all these years, they were too much to bear. In late 1953, Olson visited a CIA black site in Stuttgart, Germany. He was there to oversee special interrogations in which prisoners passed away painfully from the very poisons he had made.
Damn.
After this, one of Olson's colleagues sent a report to his superior.
He just mad because he got a bald spot at the top of his head. That's why he mad. I'd be mad too if I could just rub the top of my head like that. I'd be mad. No, I'll just play. I'm trying to make light of the situation. This is messed up, bro. I'm gonna be honest. This is terrible, bro.
After this, one of Olson's colleagues sent a report to his superiors, claiming that Olson was deeply disturbed over what he had seen in Germany, and that he had showed signs of not wanting to keep secret what he had witnessed. In mid-November, Olson was back in the US when he received an invitation to a CIA retreat with Sidney Gottlieb and 7 other members of MKUltra. On the retreat, Gottlieb opened a bottle of Cointreau. It had been laced with LSD, and Olson did not take it well. He refused to eat or even speak to his family. The few words he said to his wife were, "I've made a terrible mistake." Days later, Gottlieb convinced Olson to speak with a CIA psychiatrist in New York. During the trip there, he still refused to eat, but his conversation with the psychiatrist seemed to calm him down. Olson had promised his wife he would return to share Thanksgiving dinner with the family. But on the way back from New York, he had another breakdown. He said he was ashamed to meet his family. He seemed to think the police were after him, and felt an overwhelming sense of helplessness.
How come every time somebody get drugged, they always think the police after them? That's like the first thing that go through every like overly drugged person's mind. Like anybody that's strung out on stuff or like going crazy in the mind, they always think the police after them. Like that's always their story. The police, the government is always that. In his case, I guess I can't even blame him though, because the government is the people who did this to him, really. I just don't know, and y'all can fill me in like if y'all know this, but I don't know if he took it willingly or if they tricked him into taking it. Because they said it was in the drink or whatever, but I don't know if he already knew and he was okay with experimenting on himself, or they had to trick him into doing it.
And felt an overwhelming sense of helplessness. Olson's MKUltra colleagues suggested that he see the psychiatrist in New York once again. So he spent around an hour with Olson, and then 20 minutes with Robert Lashbrook, the only other person, apart from Gottlieb, who knew everything about MKUltra.
Everything?
The psychiatrist told Olson he should consider being hospitalized voluntarily, and he agreed. In fact, he even told Lashbrook that he was looking forward to having spare time to read. That night, Olson and Lashbrook shared a room on the 13th floor of the Statler Hotel in New York
For the first time ever, all-star chef duos go head-to-head for their charities.
City. At 2:25 a.m., the window shattered and Olson's body hit the pavement.
Damn.
The hotel's manager rushed out. Olson had survived the fall.
Damn.
According to the manager, he raised his...
That's a terrible thing. I always say that gotta be one of the worst feelings in the world. Well, I don't know, because they say if you try to take your own life, you usually regret it right when you're in the midst of doing it. But to try to hurt yourself, like falling out of a building and then you survive with all them broken bones and whatever side effects you about to have from falling out of that building, they gotta be terrible, bro. Knowing that was not your goal, was to survive.
Head slightly, tried to speak, and fell back down. Before the police arrived at the scene, Lashbrook made 2 short calls. First, he called Gottlieb, who arranged for a crisis manager. And then, he called a number that belonged to MK Ultra's psychiatrist. At a time when phone calls were routed manually, it was common for operators to eavesdrop on calls. This one was short. Well, he's gone. Well, that's too bad. The police entered Lashbrook's room with their guns drawn. They found him sitting on the toilet.
Wait.
According to Lashbrook, Olson was a chemist for the Army. He had come to New York to be treated by a psychiatrist.
Wait, did he get pushed out the window or did he jump out by himself? Maybe I missed the detail. My fault.
Became mentally unstable and jumped through the hotel window. The story checked out, and Lashbrook added that all of this should be kept quiet for national security reasons.
Oh, okay.
When the CIA's crisis manager arrived, he laid out a 3-step plan to keep Olson's death from being tied to the CIA and MK Ultra. First, they would persuade the NYPD not to investigate the case further and help mislead the media. Second, they would give Lashbrook a fake backstory. And lastly, they would inform Olson's family, but keep them calm and cooperative. The first 2 steps were simple, but the third was another matter. The official narrative was that Frank Olson had either fallen or jumped from the hotel window. Since the window was closed and covered by a curtain, an accident was unlikely, but a jump would have required extraordinary agility. Olson would have had to sprint from the back of the room, dive over a radiator, and break the window while ducking in midair to avoid a divider. There was no reason why
so they did throw him out there.
He couldn't have simply opened the window and slid out. At Olson's funeral, Gottlieb told his family that they were welcome to ask him questions about what happened at any time. But for now, the family had no choice but to accept what he told them. Frank Olson either fell or jumped from his hotel window. Those words, fell or jumped, came to haunt Olson's 9-year-old son, Eric. They meant 2 completely different things. But despite his age, he had a feeling that neither of them was true. In fact, the CIA had left out a crucial detail. Frank Olson had been an unwilling subject of an LSD experiment, and years later, this would be a deadly mistake for Sidney Gottlieb.
Damn, so he ain't even want to take it. Bro, that is insane, bro. That's why you gotta watch who you hanging with. You gotta watch who you accept certain things from. You gotta watch who you smoking with, who you drinking with. Watch who you accept food from, bro. You gotta make sure you can really trust these people, bro, because you do not know what somebody's out there to do, bro. You don't even gotta know a person and they could be planning on you or plotting on you to take you in for an experiment or something, bro. And you gotta be good at reading energy, bro. You gotta tap in with yourself and be able to peep the room and see what's going on and trust your instincts and your gut because, bro, this right here, you just don't know, bro. Especially people that find a way to gain some influence or become some type of importance to the world, bro. Like, you really, really gotta pay attention because you just don't know, bro. This is an evil world we living in, I'm telling you, bro.
As the American people's fear of war against the Soviet Union grew, Sidney Gottlieb solidified his power inside the CIA and greatly expanded the scope and scale of MK Ultra. By the mid-1950s, Gottlieb was funding dozens of sub-projects in the most prestigious universities and hospitals in the country, which never knew the CIA was behind their grants.
Damn.
MK Ultra was large enough to encompass everything, from the effects of extreme sensory deprivation and isolation, to a truth serum and a pill that would make a drunk man sober. But in reality, these early experiments made little progress in the field of mind control. For that, Gottlieb took things one step further. In 1955, the CIA contacted a man called Donald Ewan Cameron. He was the president of the biggest psychiatric associations in both the US and Canada, head of the Department of Psychology at McGill University. Recently, Cameron had conducted an experiment of particular interest to the CIA. Psychic driving, as he called it, was a technique to rid patients of minor disorders such as anxiety or depression. First, Cameron would drug his patients into a semi-comatose state for between 10 days and 3 months. Then he would use electroconvulsive therapy up to 40 times stronger than recommended. He would move them to a solitary ward, give them minimal amounts of food and water, an excess dose of LSD, and place a helmet with earphones over their heads.
They are literally taking people and turning them into zombies, literally. Taking away all their consciousness, their thoughts, their sanity. That's basically what they're doing, just taking away their sanity, bro. Just taking away everything, like every feeling of being human, they're trying to strip them of it. They're literally creating zombies, bro. Creating inhumane bodies of flesh. That's basically all they're doing.
It repeated phrases like, "My mother hates with food and water," an excess dose of LSD, and place a helmet with earphones over their heads. It repeated phrases like, "My mother hates me," hundreds of thousands of times.
Bro.
And after days of this, he would put them to sleep for another 10 days. Gottlieb saw a lot of potential in Cameron's research, so he began funding it under MK Ultra Subproject 68. Cameron's work for the CIA was even more creative, but decades later, a review concluded that it had no therapeutic validity whatsoever. For now, Gottlieb took MK Ultra in a wild new direction.
Don't let your vacation rental and its pool be invisible. Get seen, get booked on Booking.com.
Check out Hot Shots, part of Skechers Court and Classics collection. Hot Shots by Skechers Court and Classics.
In 1955, the man in charge of the New York apartment where they tested on regular people was transferred over to San Francisco on his regular job. This had been a crucial part of MK Ultra, so instead of shutting the operation down, Gottlieb made the project stranger. Subproject 42, or as it was otherwise known, Operation Midnight Climax, had 2 goals. Just like in New York, the CIA would test drugs on regular citizens, but this time, they added a new variable. Starting in late 1955, the CIA deployed an entire team of women workers to the streets of San Francisco. For every client they brought to an apartment, drugged and slept with, they would get between $50 and $100. The CIA filmed.
That's it. No, and it's not. I'm not saying that's it. Like this is the right thing to do. Like this is all terrible stuff. Like this is all terrible. But I'm just saying though, like you got these women taking risk and chances like this, and you giving them $50 to $100 to do it. They could just go work a regular shift and make that without having to harm anybody. But this back in the day, so it probably was worth a lot more back then. I don't know what the equivalent would be from then to now. I don't know, like, you know what I mean? I don't know what that money would translate into in today's time. So maybe it's a lot more than what I'm thinking about. But $50 to $100, bro, to risk your life trying to drug somebody, and you know what I mean? Like, that's crazy.
They would get between $50 and $100. The CIA filmed and recorded everything from behind a one-way mirror. According to one agent, the apartment had so many hidden electronics that if you spilled a glass of water, you'd probably electrocute yourself. Operation Midnight Climax did not reveal much about mind control, but surprisingly, combining intercourse and drugs was one of the most effective methods of extracting secrets discovered in all of MK Ultra. Research wasn't always the priority, though. Gottlieb and his team were not opposed to partaking in the fun that comes with operating a brothel. 4 years in, MK Ultra was a colossal enterprise with dozens of sub-projects operating simultaneously across the world. Running it, though, had taken a toll on Gottlieb, so in 1957, he decided to train as a field agent in Germany. The CIA has not declassified details about his time away, But 50 years later, a website revealed that during that period, the CIA was arresting people without the knowledge of German authorities, imprisoning them at times for months, and subjecting them to forms of interrogation forbidden by German law. After 2 years abroad, Gottlieb returned to MKUltra, and not much had changed. The CIA had tested every drug and every psychiatric technique in the book. In the process, they'd found thousands of cruel ways to break a mind, but not a single way to control it. As for LSD, Gottlieb concluded that its effects were too unpredictable. But by that point, it was too late. By 1960, the CIA had shipped so much LSD around the US that it had leaked from university professors to students.
Side note about what they just said though. How he found so many ways to break a mind, but he couldn't find a way to control it. That lets you know how strong the human mind really is. Like how powerful the human mind really, you really can't control it. Even in like Get Out, if y'all ever seen Get Out, they was able to control people's minds to a degree by reprogramming and putting certain ideas in there, but they would still have episodes of coming back, as they say, woke. You know what I'm saying? They will wake back up and then get back into their normal state. Or not a normal state, but they would just remember everything. You know what I mean? Like, that's how powerful the human mind is, bro. You can start remembering even when you get broken down and reprogrammed, you could still have a chance to come back and your memory could, like your mind could come back to you. Like, that's how strong it is, bro. One of the most smartest men on planet Earth, one of the smartest scientists on planet Earth that was elected by the CIA couldn't even figure it out. That should let you know something about yourself, bro.
To the general public. Ironically, instead of controlling people, LSD seemed to help them rediscover themselves and break from convention. In the end, LSD was one of the root causes for the counterculture movement of the 60s and 70s.
At GEHA, your health is our purpose. Health benefits for federal employees and retirees.
Roku's self-serve ads platform. It's easier than ever with Ads Manager. Sign up today.
This is very lovely. And it goes and comes, you know. I mean, that one state there that was, I never experienced anything like that.
With LSD out loose in the world, MKUltra could not remain a secret for much longer. In 1961, Alan Dulles retired as Director of Central Intelligence and was replaced by a man called John McCone. MKUltra was already reduced from its peak years, but it was still the most secretive project at the agency. McCone wanted to know what it was. Gottlieb managed to dissuade him from learning anything about MKUltra while he launched a few more sub-projects, one of which involved giving an elephant 300,000 micrograms of LSD.
Why?
The result was tragic.
What's the
However,
point?
after 2 years leading the CIA, McCone had become increasingly suspicious about MKUltra, and he asked for a report on it. Most details were omitted, but the report made 4 main points. MKUltra was A. unethical, B. illegal, C. contrary to the rights and interests of the American people, and D. revealing details about it would do untold damage to the CIA's reputation. The conclusion was that MKUltra should be reduced in scope, but Gottlieb, surprisingly, took that a step further. Over the last few years, the CIA's hunch about the Soviets being able to control minds was proven plainly wrong. Mind control, as it turns out, is nothing but a fantasy. So apart from leading to some new special interrogation methods, MKUltra had been a complete failure. After 10 years, Gottlieb decided to effectively let it fade away. All remaining sub-projects would not be renewed. John McCone resigned from the CIA in 1965. His successor quit within a year and was replaced by Richard Helms, a man who had played an instrumental part in MKUltra. One of Helms' first actions was to promote Gottlieb to chief of the recently renamed Technical Services Division. Gottlieb did well in his new role. For the next 7 years, he helped develop a range of gadgets from a thumb-sized handgun and miniature cameras to poisons and a surgically modified cat with a microphone and transmitter. Gottlieb was indispensable to the CIA, and with Richard Helms as the director...
That is crazy, bruh. So some of these animals, so the birds really do got cameras in them.
Gottlieb was indispensable to the CIA, and with Richard Helms as the director, MKUltra seemed a long-forgotten memory. But that was all about to change. On June 17, 1972, the Washington, D.C. police caught several men wiretapping phones and stealing documents at the Democratic National Committee's office in the Watergate complex. Apart from using gear supplied by Gottlieb's Technical Services Division, the intruders had ties to President Richard Nixon's re-election.
Oh, my fault. I'm all up in the way, y'all. I might want to see who this dude is right here. That's what he looked like.
Technical Services Division. The intruders had ties to President Richard Nixon's re-election campaign. Nixon asked Helms to create a cover story for him, but Helms refused. Nixon fired him months later, so suddenly MKUltra's gatekeeper was gone. On his last day on the job, Helms asked Gottlieb to destroy all records of MKUltra, and it was a perfectly timed move. The next director of Central Intelligence, James Schlesinger, was determined to root out all corruption from the CIA. He immediately fired Gottlieb and asked all current and former employees of the CIA to report any illegal activities the agency had ever been a part of. 2 days later, though, President Nixon made Schlesinger his Secretary of Defense, and a new director, William Colby, received the report Schlesinger had asked for. Given the gravity of the 693 pages Colby received, the CIA's illegal activities remained a secret. But still, somehow the information leaked. Months after President Nixon's resignation in 1974, the New York Times ran a story about the CIA's illegal spying on members of the anti-war movement. The next U.S. president, Gerald Ford, was forced to launch an investigation. The Rockefeller Commission, as it was called, focused mostly on the CIA's illegal spying of American citizens. In 6 months of hearings, MKUltra was never mentioned by name, but some of its activities were discussed. In June 1975, the commission put out its final report. The next day, the Washington Post ran 4 stories about it. One of them detailed the case of an Army scientist who, after being given LSD without consent, developed serious side effects and fell from the 10th floor window of a New York
It's beginning to look a lot like competition.
It's Team Naughty?
hotel. When Eric Olson read this story, he instantly knew it was about his father. But some details were wrong. Frank Olson worked for the CIA, and he had fallen from the 13th floor. But the CIA never said they had drugged him. So the Olson family immediately went looking for a lawyer. A court battle would have forced the CIA to reveal damning documents about MKUltra. So instead, President Ford issued a formal apology and offered the family $750,000 to drop the case.
Yeah, that bribe money right there, that's that hush money. Like, listen, bro, we ain't trying to let nobody know what we was doing behind the scenes, and your dad got something to do with it. So can y'all please leave us alone? We got money for y'all. Let's see if they take the money or not. Let's see if they take the bribe or not.
After some thought, they accepted. The official narrative had changed. Frank Olson had jumped out of that window after a bad LSD trip. But his son Eric, now 31, still felt there was more to the story. He made it his life's mission to find out what really happened to his father.
Damn, bro.
Throughout his entire career, Sidney Gottlieb had been one of the most elusive figures in the CIA. Even at the higher ranks of the White House, few people knew he existed. Now, the government was looking into his work. In 1975, Gottlieb was to testify before the Church Committee, a new round of investigations. He was granted legal immunity and allowed to testify behind closed doors under an alias. But in 40 hours of testimony, he revealed only the most superficial details about his time at the CIA. By the time the Church Committee submitted its final report, MKUltra and Sidney Gottlieb were still shrouded in mystery. But that was about to change. In 1977, a researcher called John Marks submitted a request for any and all MKUltra documents that escaped destruction. Under the Freedom of Information Act, the agency had to comply. This was the start of Gottlieb's downfall. Years prior, Gottlieb had forgotten to destroy MKUltra's financial records. When Marks made his request, he received over 16,000 pages of documents, some of which he released in a press conference.
16,000, bro.
Despite being just financial reports, these documents revealed real details about MKUltra, and Gottlieb's name was all over them. Once again, he was called to testify, this time before the US Senate. But like last time, Gottlieb was masterfully deceptive. He never revealed that he was MKUltra's director, that the CIA had interrogation centers outside the US, or that any of his test subjects had died. As far as the committee was concerned, MKUltra was a rogue science project, not a global operation of catastrophic scale. Marks, however, was not satisfied. He spent the next 2 years investigating every detail about MKUltra, and in 1979, he released a book with everything he found. The Search for the Manchurian Candidate exposed MKUltra's horrifying truth in ways no Senate hearing or government report ever had. It meticulously detailed the CIA's cruel experiments with prisoners, mental patients, and even children in its useless search for mind control.
Right, that's the crazy part. They couldn't even figure out a way to control the mind, though. All they did was drive people crazy, and that was it. Couldn't control it, though.
First time, Americans were confronted with the full story of MKUltra and the people behind it. Public trust in the CIA fell to record lows. The book paints a complicated picture of Sidney Gottlieb, a man whose undeniable scientific genius is equal only to his extreme cruelty. After the book released, Gottlieb's name would never be forgotten, but by all accounts, he lived a comfortable life in retirement. Gottlieb had an idyllic family life. He was deeply spiritual and immersed himself in his community. Eventually, though,
Do y'all believe all scientists are spiritual? I know spirituality and science sometimes can go against each other, but I feel like at the same time they're going against each other, they're working together in a way. So do y'all feel like every scientist got to be somewhat spiritual?
And immersed himself in his community. Eventually, though, a particular chapter of his work in the CIA came back to haunt him. At Frank Olson's funeral, Gottlieb had told the Olson family that they were welcome to ask him anything about what happened to their father. The Olson children took him up on that 31 years later, in 1984. Gottlieb only told the Olsons what they already knew. Their father was given LSD, and he either fell or jumped from his hotel window. His answer to any of their real questions was that he had moved on from those days. When Eric Olson pressed him harder, Gottlieb told him he was clearly troubled by his father's death and suggested that he join a support group. It was insulting.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And that was the moment Eric decided to prove that his father's death had not been an accident. Eric waited 10 years until his mother passed away, until he decided to take his father's body out of his grave. He hired a forensic pathologist who spent a month examining the corpse. Frank Olson's body was free of toxins, but he had no glass shards on his head or neck, which he should have had if he dived through the window. Most curiously, though, Olson had fallen on his back, but the portion of his skull above his left eye was fractured.
Uncompromising energy deserves uncompromising
That's crazy,
quality,
bruh.
crafted without compromise.
It's wild.
Three years later, in 1997, the CIA declassified a training manual called A Study of Assassination, written in 1953, the year of Olson's death. It was unsigned, but Gottlieb was identified as the author. The manual described a simple method of assassination that would arouse little suspicion. First, the victim would be knocked out, preferably by striking them in the temple without leaving any visible wound. Then they would drop onto a hard surface from at least 75 feet. To Eric Olson, this sounded eerily familiar. In 1999, the New York District Attorney began investigating Gottlieb for the murder of Frank Olson. At that point, he was 80 years old and suffering from a mild heart condition. Gottlieb passed away before a trial took place, and his body was cremated. His wife declined to reveal his cause of death, but Eric Olson came to his own conclusion. Sidney Gottlieb died by his own hand, taking all his secrets with him. This video was the culmination of decades of meticulous research by mainstream media outlets, the US government, and independent journalists alike. All of this really happened, and yet there's no better way to sound utterly insane than to talk about crimes the CIA publicly admitted to. Some of the most influential figures in American history played vital roles in MKUltra. They knew what they were doing was wrong, but they believed they were defending their country from an existential threat. If it's anything beyond a chilling example of human cruelty, MKUltra is a reminder that people do horrible things for what they consider to be good reasons.
Yeah, that's crazy, bro. But they never was able to control the mind though. I thought they was gonna eventually be able to control it, like, cause they was talking about it throughout the video, like they trying to crack the code, they trying to crack the code, and most of the time when it come down to them real smart scientists, they usually end up cracking the code. But he couldn't do it. I don't know if he was able to do it later on or whatever. Not him, but I don't know if it's been discovered later on how to control the mind or whatever. I don't know if it's people being out here. I don't know if it's people out here being literally like remote control. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that video was wild, bro. Super informational though. Like stuff I feel like people should know. But other than that, that's the video, man. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe, bro. Let me know what y'all want to see next. Other than that, I'm out.